Hi everybody. So this video is going to cover my first trimester of pregnancy and some tips and tricks for people who are pregnant, for people with vegan concerns, PCOS, or any of that, looking for natural childbirth. So to start off, nausea. That is probably the first thing. Morning sickness, probably the first thing you think of when you think of the first trimester. I was not spared from that, as most women have it. I did too. Not a whole lot of actual throwing up, a lot of nausea and a lot of dry heaving, which was not fun. It was awful. What I found worked best for me was sour tasting drinks and foods. So I drank a lot of lemonade, a lot of limeade. As it turns out, in the second trimester, I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. So in retrospect, maybe those sugary drinks didn't really help me all that much. I would recommend, if you want to go the sour route, to first try just water with lemon juice squeezed in or lime juice squeezed in. So you kind of bypass the whole sugar thing. They do make teas that are supposed to help with morning sickness. I had a lemon tea. I wasn't much of a hot tea drinker during my pregnancy for some reason. You could try like lemon tea. They do make some special ones. This one is Earth Mama Angel Baby Organics Organic Morning Wellness Tea. I hated this. So I give this a bad review. I just found it tasted disgusting. It's supposed to be ginger mint flavor. And it's got a whole bunch of stuff that's supposed to be good for you. Ginger, mint, chamomile, all things that are supposed to soothe the morning sickness. But I couldn't deal with it. So your mileage may vary there, depending on what you like. They also have something called Preggy Pops or Preggy Pop Drops. They look like this. And I bought this at a natural food store, and it's also available on Vitacost. They're basically just, let's see if I can show you. Oh, sorry about that. They all fell on the floor. But they look like this. So it's just little suckers, or little drops. Different flavors. They have like lemon, lime, cherry. And they're just sour candies, basically. They're really expensive. You get 21 candies in a tin, and I think the first time I bought them, it was like $7. And the second time I bought it on Vitacost, I want to say Vitacost sells it for about $5. So it's a little better, but it's still really expensive. The only difference between this and like a lemon drop candy is that these are supposed to be natural. They use essential oils. I mean, it's got corn syrup in it and dried cane syrup. So maybe slightly healthier sugar, maybe. They're good. They work. They totally work. The only bad thing was, in your first trimester, sometimes you're trying to hide your pregnancy, and the little wrappers do say Preggy Pop Drops on them. So if you have them in your purse, you know, someone might be like, oh, why are you eating something that says pregnant on it? But you could probably just do lemon candies or something like that. I just had trouble finding that kind of stuff when I was pregnant, and I was just desperate, so I bought these, and then I bought them again because they were on Vitacost, and I liked them. But yeah, that stuff tended to help me. Some people find ginger helps. I know that St. Clair's, also available on Vitacost, makes a really good ginger candy. I didn't personally find that ginger helped too much with my pregnancy, but you could try that as well. As far as aversions to foods, I did find that hummus was like the first thing I just couldn't stand. Cooked broccoli I couldn't stand. A lot of healthy foods I just didn't want anymore, so I kind of started eating white bread, potato chips. just really kind of white foods. Peanut butter, I ate peanut butter throughout my pregnancy, but it got a little close there towards the end where it was starting to be less desirable in my first trimester. So it sucked because it was basically, as a vegan, those were a lot of my proteins and a lot of things that helped me stay healthy. I lost some weight. I think I lost like 3 pounds. That's pretty normal. A lot of women lose weight in their first trimester because you're throwing up a lot, or you're not really hungry because you don't feel good and all this kind of stuff. So eat what you can and just move forward. Try and eat healthy if you can, but it's hard to do. It is important to have vitamins, and that can help you to keep those healthy minerals and stuff if you're not eating the healthy foods especially. They do make several versions of vegan prenatals. The one I used is called Diva, D-E-V-A. You can get it on Vitacost. I want to say it's like $13 maybe for a 3-month supply. So it's not bad money-wise. It's got all the stuff that you would need as a vegan. Most of the stuff that you would need as a vegan. My doctor recommended that I also take an omega-3 DHA vitamin, which really helps with the baby's brain development. My doctor thought there was no way I could take one that would be vegan, but I did find some. Again, this is Diva brand. It says non-fish vegan omega-3 DHA. And it's actually made from seaweed, from algae. So it is possible to have that vegan as well. So those were the 2 things I took throughout my whole pregnancy, and now that I'm breastfeeding, I've been continuing to take them as well. And now I want to go a little bit into resources. So first trimester, I'm learning all about pregnancy, all about childbirth. I didn't really know all that much going into this. So there were a lot of resources that really helped me. The first major resource I want to mention is the documentary Business of Being Born. If you are interested or considering a natural childbirth, really I would recommend this documentary for everybody. I think it's good to have both sides, to really have an open mind and get all the information you can and then make an educated decision. But this documentary is definitely a proponent of natural childbirth. So know that going in. If you're interested in that, definitely see it. It was really helpful to me to understand how the whole medical industry works. After seeing the documentary, I would read a lot of articles and different emails and things in the books that I would read that would corroborate everything that the documentary said. But it was really helpful for me to make decisions as to how I wanted my birth to go. Not to say that sometimes interventions aren't necessary. They totally are, as you'll see in my final video. But I think it's, women have been giving birth for thousands and thousands of years. The body is designed to do it. I think we let technology take over a little too much, and it hinders us rather than helping us. And while it can be critical, as you'll see in my later video, we should really, I wanted to try and do it naturally because I felt like that just made the most sense. So these are the resources that I had as far as books and paper media, I guess you could call it. One magazine that I got is called American Baby. It's free. I just like getting stuff in the mail, and when you're pregnant, it's anything baby related is like exciting to read about, or at least it was for me. You can get this, just go do a Google for free baby stuff, you'll probably find it. I think AmericanBaby.com is the website. It's an overall magazine, but then there's an insert in the middle that's specific to whatever month of pregnancy you're in. So it's tailored just to you, which is kind of cool. So it's got information about that month that you're in, and then other information about baby related stuff. it's free, so it's funded by advertisements. So there's a lot of advertisements in there, but I still like to get it just because it was totally, something I could relate to, I guess. Books. I read a lot of books. The very first book that I got, total cliche. What to Expect When You're Expecting. This book right here. A lot of people hate this book. I didn't personally have any problems with it. I don't doubt that there's maybe better books out there. I think one of them is The Thinking Guide to Pregnancy or something like that, which I wanted to read, but because I had already gotten this, it wasn't my top priority, and then I ran out of time. I don't think there's anything wrong with this book. I mean, as long as you have other resources that you're referring to, and so you have a really well-rounded amount of stuff that you're gleaning information from. Basically, this book just goes over everything that's happening to you, everything that's happening to your baby, divided into each month, things that you might need to know about, medical conditions that might happen in pregnancy, things that are going to happen at that doctor's visit for that month. Those I found to be not incredibly accurate based on how my doctor did things. Everybody's doctor is going to vary. But it was helpful. It was helpful just to read, like I would read the month I'm in, and then I would read 1 month ahead just to see what I'm getting into, so to speak. And I found it to be helpful. I don't know. One thing I will say, that reminds me. When you pick your doctor, another thing to think about is how many doctors are in the practice. I don't think I mentioned that in the preconception video. My practice had 3 doctors, or 2 doctors and a midwife. So I could technically have any of them during the birth. If you pick a practice and you love your doctor, but the practice has like 20 doctors in it, you want to ask questions in that interview about who's going to deliver the baby. Oftentimes it's just whoever is on call. So the bigger the office, the less likely you'll know that doctor very personally who will deliver the baby. So it's up to you how your feelings are on that. I didn't figure that out till like the 3rd trimester, which was kind of upsetting. But as it turns out, everyone at that practice was really great, so I was in good hands. But just something to keep in mind. Another book I read very early on was a parenting book. This book is Beyond the Sling. It's by Mayim Bialik. That's what it looks like. It's basically a book about attachment parenting. I didn't know a whole lot about it, and I wanted to learn more, and I'd read a lot of good reviews about it, and I respected the way that she approached the information and giving that information to others, and I knew she was, very smart and that kind of thing. It was a very helpful book. It gave me a lot of ideas that I'm still planning on using as far as parenting goes. So I do recommend that book. I also read the book The Kind Mama. I was very excited to get this one as well. This is by Alicia Silverstone. It's sort of a follow-up in a way to The Kind Diet, which I also have, and I love that book. It kind of gives a few recipes from The Kind Diet in there, but it goes a lot into parenting and pregnancy and how to do it if you're vegan. Actually, I believe Mayim Bialik is vegan as well. But yeah, so she just goes through all the information you might want to know about a natural childbirth. It's a little hippy dippy. But I like this book because it felt like her writing style. I felt like I was talking to a friend, sort of. It didn't feel too over my head or too technical. It was really relatable, so I kind of like that. It was a fun read. And all of these books, this book got a lot of flack when it came out because of one thing. She must have mentioned it in an interview, and that's what caused all the hullabaloo about it. But it was about chewing up your food and then regurgitating it back into your baby's mouth, sort of like a mother bird would do to a baby bird, which they do in other cultures. It got a lot of media attention, and people were just very upset with her, and a lot of negative publicity. The mention of it in this book is like a paragraph, if that, and it's very much, this is something I do. I'm not saying you should do it, but just, it's something to think about. I mean, it's ridiculous how much attention that little bit got versus what the whole book says. So all of these, I take what I want out of every book. You know, I read everything really open-minded. I make my own decisions, and I, you know, take what's useful to me. And that doesn't mean everything is the Bible to me, you know, in each of these books. I just take what helps and leave whatever else in the book, and that works for me. So just something to keep in mind. Just because you may not agree with everything the book says doesn't mean you can't get some good information from it. Two other books I read were by Ina May Gaskin. First one is Ina May's Guide to Childbirth. This was a pretty cool book. It's divided into two sections. The first section is all personal stories by different women. Most, I believe, who had Ina May as a midwife. And just these personal stories of women who had natural childbirths and what they went through and what they felt and how everything went for them in their pregnancy. So it's very uplifting and supportive of having a natural childbirth. Like, a lot of thinking about a natural childbirth when you're first learning about it, there's a lot of fear involved. And so to read these stories, it's supposed to, you know, allay those fears so that you can focus on, yes, I can, and these things. And it really is totally possible to have a natural childbirth. But we create all these fears in our head and in society that we can't. It got a little old reading these stories. At some point I was like, okay, I want to know the information. I'm tired of reading these personal accounts. So I only read maybe a half to 2/3 of that section, and then I skipped ahead to the end, which is all more the science of it, you know, what your body does, how you can, ways you can have a natural childbirth, things that will help with contractions and things like that. So I did find this book to be very helpful. I also got Ina May's Guide to Breastfeeding, which looks like that. This I read actually in the 3rd trimester. I didn't read it right away. So as I was getting closer to giving birth, I found it to be a really good platform, I guess, to start breastfeeding with. It gave me a lot of information. You know, I didn't remember every little bit that I had read. And it talks a lot of this is about society and society's views on breastfeeding and stuff, which I think they're changing. I was very impressed by how much the hospital pushed breastfeeding, and you know, now you can get a free breast pump from your insurance. Yay, Obamacare. So definitely check that out if you're pregnant while we still have it. I don't know how long that will last. I also found this book to be really helpful after I was actually breastfeeding. A lot of the holds and the latches that they talk about and different issues, they were hard to conceptualize without actually having a baby there to see how it all works. But after I started breastfeeding, this was really useful to have on the bedside table. I could just grab it and refer to a certain section if I was having issues. I found that really helpful. Another book that my husband read is called The Birth Partner, and that is by Penny Simkin. And I really recommend this book for your birth partner, whoever that may be. It was really nice when he was reading this, because we would take walks, and as he would read, you know, a new section about a different topic, we would discuss it on our walks, and it was really neat to, you know, he'd learn all this stuff and then we'd start talking about it, and maybe I had learned that from a different book and we would discuss it, or maybe I didn't know about it and it was something new to discuss. But it was really helpful in preparing for the birth and feeling like we were on the same page and that kind of thing. And I think he felt more prepared by reading it. So I highly recommend that book as well. A couple websites that I'd like to recommend. The first is yourbabybooty.com, and I'll put the link down below. And that was recommended to me, I think, by my doula. And it's free or subscription based online site with different resources. So you have articles that you can read. You also have a lot of videos, and I found the videos to be really, really helpful. If you do the free sign up, you still get access to a lot of really great videos. I don't think it's necessary to pay for the subscription, but there was a lot of great videos about just women's a woman's perspective of going through birth. And there was like one where she was doing a natural childbirth, and her doula wasn't there and her husband wasn't there, and she was there all alone for some reason. And the hospital was just like, oh, we're going to do your epidural. And she really had to fight for herself. You don't want to make the staff upset. You don't want to be like, I didn't order an epidural. What are you talking about? This is wrong. You want to keep things really calm, but you also want to really stand up for yourself. And that's so important. And it talked about how she was able to do that while having contractions and everything. And I just think it's so important to learn all this and really have a lot of information to arm yourself with. And not to say that you're going into battle necessarily, but in a way, sort of. And it's just good to have all the information you can have and to really be your own best advocate. Have support, have a doula, have your birth partner there, but also support yourself and be an advocate for yourself and have that information. So definitely all those resources. Another very popular resource, thebump.com. There's forums specific to your baby's birth month, so you can kind of see what's going on to other women who are going through the same thing that you are at that moment. You can also get emails from thebump.com. They'll send you an email every week telling you how big your baby is, which is silly. They compare it to a fruit, which, there's little oranges and there's big oranges. There's little bananas and big bananas. So it's like, it's not really a relevant sense of how big the baby is, but it's fun. And it's just fun to get that email to see what your baby is doing that week. It was always a highlight of my week when I got the email. But yeah, that's just some stuff to get you started. Hope it helps. I will be back with my second trimester video soon.